Welcome back to Genesis Does, right here at the Mr. MegaManFan channel. And what we have today is a copy of Crüe. It's a Motley Crue inspired pinball game created by NewFX, licensed by Electronic Arts, and only on the Sega Genesis / Mega Drive. Unfortunately, I have never had anything other than a loose cartridge, and it has a lot of directions on the back. Don't expose it to direct sunlight. Don't immerse it in water, and don't use it except with Sega Genesis or compatible system. Compatible always amused me. Now, why did these Electronic Arts carts have this weird yellow tab for their logo? It always threw me off. It always looked like a slot where you'd insert a memory card or something. I don't know what, but anyway, doesn't really matter. The carts look weird, but they all work in a Genesis. So let's get down to playing the game, shall we? Let's play some Crüe. Here is the Electronic Arts logo. Back before they were a Goliath of a company that bought up other indie developers and shut them down. And there's some of our Motley Crue theming for the game. Now, from what I understand, they were originally either going to call this game Twisted Flipper, obviously a reference to Twisted Sister, or they were going to license the name Headbangers Ball from MTV and call it Headbanger Ball, a pinball metal game. But neither of those panned out, and very late in the whole thing, they finally decided to go with Motley Crue and get the license for that. So this game is almost accidentally related to Motley Crue in any way. It really could be any heavy metal themed pinball game, but they managed to get a few Motley Crue characters and bit-crushed versions of their songs into the game, most notably Dr. Feelgood, which I think is the one song, even if you had never ever heard of Motley Crue, you would probably recognize. Now, the way the plunger meter works in this game is kind of weird. Instead of pulling back a plunger, you're firing up a power meter, and the longer you hold down the button, the more the power meter increases before your ball is launched into the playfield. And as you can see, we've got some skull-looking figures that we can shoot at as targets. We've also got multiple levels of the playfield, a lower section and a higher section, and a bonus section, which if you clear enough of the targets, you can unlock and basically go on a journey with your pinball into the great beyond. But you'll see that a little bit later as I work my way through the table here. Now, the physics to me are not as good as Sonic Spinball, which is probably going to seem odd to some of you because I just did that game on Genesis Does last week, and I was talking about how people complained it wasn't a Sonic the Hedgehog game back in the day. Well, yeah, but if that's the case, at least it was a good pinball game. And I'm not saying Crüe is a bad pinball game. It's just, I found the flippers and the mechanics of Sonic Spinball to be, I don't know if it's more authentic, but more controllable. With Crüe, the ball just shoots out of certain sections of the screen really fast, and to me it even feels like the ball is moving so fast that it skips a frame here or there, and that's hard to control, and it's hard to react to when it comes off a target and you want to aim it for another section of the board where you want to clear out bonuses. But I did manage to work it up to this top section with a floating head, which appears to be one of the members of Motley Crue, or maybe just some wicked dude with a pair of shades on. I can't honestly tell you, but it's pretty nice actually that they've got a readout for what looks like a stereo system playing their music right there behind this target that I'm shooting at. That's something Techmoan would be very happy about because he loves old stereo receivers that have a visual readout that shows you the dynamic range of each sound being played and what volume it is at. So he is very into vintage receivers, and you should check out Techmoan's channel if you never have. Techmoan. He loves old technology, but he doesn't just do vintage stereos and obscure music formats. He also does modern things like receivers that allow you to send HD TV across your house to a different television without any wires. That was one of the very cool projects that he did. So I always appreciate his tech reviews as well as his enthusiasm for formats that either didn't take off in the market or are just unknown outside of the United States, and in some cases even unknown outside of the UK where he lives. I digress. Anyway, back to Crüe Ball. We've got this new target lit up in the center that you have to knock all of these pieces out of, this diamond shape. And once you clear all of the different segments of the diamond, it resets, and then you have to run over it Q*bert style to change the color of all of the individual pieces. If you do all of these things and you knock down all the targets that you're supposed to, eventually you can unlock the bonus area, and that's what I'm trying to do on this playthrough. Now, I must confess to all of you that I did a test run before I filmed the footage for Genesis Does, and my first playthrough of this game was not quite so impressive because of the way the ball moves, as I mentioned, and catching it with the flippers was much harder than I remembered it being. I ended up scrapping the first footage and using the second footage where I had learned to react a little bit faster to the motion of the ball with the flippers, so now it looks like I'm smooth and polished with this game, but trust me, my first playthrough was anything but. This is definitely one of those get the hang of it kind of pinball games. And I suppose that might actually be more to the detriment of Sonic Spinball than I can say it's easy to pick up and play and get into. Maybe pinball games should challenge you. Great pinball tables take a lot of practice to get really good at, and I can definitely say Crüe Ball is a game that you get better at with practice as well. Now, I've always wondered about that 4-player option in the menu because I've never had 4 people around at one time to play Crüe Ball, and I don't know whether you would just hook up 2 controllers and pass them between 2 people, or if there was actually a 4-player multi-tap for Sega Genesis. I certainly know there's 4-player multi-taps for Sony PlayStation, for Nintendo, for Super Nintendo, but I never remember seeing a multi-tap for Sega Genesis. I've even got a multi-tap for my TurboGrafx 16, but I have never had one for Genesis / Mega Drive. So let's put that out there as a question to my fellow retro enthusiasts. Maybe Ryan Taylor can answer that one, or Dan Meyer. Maybe somebody out there knows. Krusty Dusty's Game Reviews, maybe you know. Ron Mower, maybe you know. Whoever out there knows if they actually made a multiplayer multi-tap for Sega Genesis, leave your comments below. The longer I play Crüe Ball, the more I'm convinced that this could have been a pinball game of any type without the licensed Motley Crue name, image, trademarks, music, whatever. I'm kind of hoping that the songs in the game are so bit crushed that they aren't actually going to get flagged as Motley Crue songs, but just in case they are, I'm trying my best to lower the volume on the music and keep the narration up throughout the playing of the game so that it's not quite so obvious that it's all Dr. Feelgood and Livewire and whichever the other song was from Motley Crue that they actually used in the game. But I think it just is amusing in and of itself that they attempted to put Motley Crue songs on a Sega Genesis, because the technology was a little more limited in what you could reproduce, not to mention the amount of memory available on a cartridge. When they tried to put certain stuff into Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis games, there just wasn't enough space. They had to get really creative or use a lot of bank switching, and the bigger the memory chips you put into these cartridges, the more expensive they would be, which is why when we got up to the likes of Final Fantasy VII, there was really no other choice but to put those games onto disc-based formats that could hold a lot more data at a fraction of the cost. Here we go. We are traveling to the infinite beyond for a bonus stage. Now, unfortunately, I'm not going to do very good at this one because, again, been a long time since I played Crüe Ball. Probably 10 years since I pulled out this cartridge. I should play this game more often, but I was not prepared for the fact that it was actually going to be side to side instead of top down like the regular stages were, so that kind of threw me off, and my performance in this bonus stage was rather lacking. But if I get back to it again, at least I'll know what to do next time. So that's good enough for now. At least we've seen the bonus stage. I took you all on a journey to outer space with a pinball. How about that? Rock and roll, baby. Woo! And let's see how many more things I can do before this session is through. These little worms just seem to pop up at random. I don't know what causes them or what generates them. They just show up in the bottom section of the playfield to annoy you and get in your way. Much like the clucks in Sonic Spinball, they just periodically pop up and get between you and the target you're shooting at, just to annoy you. They seem to have no purpose other than that. Now, you've probably noticed on this table that the gutters aren't really gutters. When your ball goes down the left or the right lane, instead of dropping all the way out of the board, it bounces off a target and shoots back up into the table. So that is one of the merciful things about Crüe Ball, is that the only way to really lose your ball is straight down the middle. If you hit the gutters, you can actually recover, but if it goes right between both flippers, that's when you're toast. So as long as you can keep it in the playfield and not directly in the middle of your flippers, you can do pretty well. And I am doing pretty well aside from that bonus stage. I'm up to almost 1.3 million points at this point in the game. I feel like I could actually play this for a half hour or an hour now that I've gotten down the physics and gotten a good handle on it, but I don't want to keep you all here all day long. I just wanted to show you something Genesis does that Nintendon't. Crüe Ball was only on Genesis and Mega Drive, never Super Nintendo. I'm Mr. MegaManFan, and as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you back here next Thursday night.